You probably noticed that we are living in a kind of a watershed moment right now. Women, and men, are stepping up to accuse powerful men of using their power to sexually abuse them. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to any of us that powerful people have been doing this, and getting away with it, since the dawn of human civilization. It seems we have now progressed to the point where their victims can safely come out and expose them, and hopefully it will lead to a better society. But for that to happen, there are some things that we need to be wary of. First of all, of course, we should not forget the principles that Western society is based on. A man is innocent until proven guilty, and deserves due process. We should not rush to judge people. This is obvious, but in today's atmosphere, it needs to be said. Secondly, when we judge people on their behavior, we should bring into account the changing norms. The definition of rape and sexual misconduct have been greatly expanded in recent decades, and things that were once considered just naughty behavior are now considered crimes. When Harvey Weinstein tried to excuse his behavior by saying that he is a product of the 60s, there was something to it. Those who grew up during the sexual revolution had a very different mindset, and considered sexual taboos as something to be broken, something that belongs to the prudish and hypocritical world that they wanted to overthrow. It does not excuse the behavior of those who behaved badly, because other people who grew up in that period did not behave in this manner, but it should be considered when we come to judge their character. When we discuss cases of sexual misconduct that were performed decades ago, or even recently but done by people who are a product of different times, we should remember that the norms have changed. And finally, in our zeal to combat rape, we should be careful that we do not go too far with what we define as rape. And this is the topic of this video. This is a cautionary tale of what happened in my country, because we were not vigilant enough. If we look at the Israeli Penal Code, we will find section number 345, which deals with rape. Let's start reading. If a person had intercourse with a woman... Okay, so first of all, you'll notice that it's only with a woman. But that is because the Israeli law defines rape as unlawful penetration into a woman's vagina. Any other type of unlawful penetration is defined as sodomy, and is covered in a different section. As far as I can tell, the rape of a man is treated with the same severity as the rape of a woman, although I'm sure Israeli MRAs will have something to say about it. But that's not the topic of this video, so let's move on. If a person had intercourse with a woman, 1. Without her freely given consent, 2. With the woman's consent, which was obtained by deceit in respect of the identity of the person or the nature of the act, 3. Never mind, it is number 2 that I want to talk about. First of all, we should note that the English translation is not entirely accurate here. It is not exactly the identity of the person, it's more like the essence of their identity. So, according to Israeli law, if you lie to a woman about the essence of your identity, and this lie leads her to have sex with you, then you are a rapist, and can be sentenced for up to 16 years in prison. I don't know much about law, but as I understand it, this rule is inherited from British law. However, the British courts give it a very narrow interpretation, whereas the Israeli Supreme Court has greatly expanded on it. It has determined that whenever a person lies about traits that are critical to a reasonable woman, and gets her to have sex under this false presentation, they would be regarded as a rapist. So, it is important to note that we are talking about a reasonable woman, which means that not every lie will make you a rapist. But, as we shall see, this provision can sometimes fail. Now, there are cases in which I agree that deceit should be considered rape. For instance, when you trick a woman into thinking that you have power over her. Let's say you witness a woman committing a felony, pretend to be a police officer, and get her to offer you sex in exchange for not arresting her. That is rape, because there was a threat involved, a threat of harm that might come to her if she didn't have sex with you. However, the Israeli court has convicted people of rape even when the lie did not contain a threat, but a promise. For instance, there was a case of a man who was convicted of rape because he lied to women and told them that he was a pilot, who just separated from his wife and needs a place to stay. The women took him in, had a relationship with him hoping it would lead to marriage, until they realized that he was nothing but a bum and a con man. In my opinion, this man is a sleazebag who should be prosecuted and imprisoned, but not for rape. In the past, Such cases would be defined as falling under the category of obtaining a thing by deceit, and prosecuted accordingly. But the Israeli Supreme Court decided that sexual intercourse is more than just a thing, so we must prosecute such cases as rape. I disagree with this ruling. If we are talking about a woman who has sexual intercourse because she believes that she might gain something from it, then she is treating this intercourse as a commodity. And the commodity is a thing. A woman should have sex with a man because she wants to have sex with him, not because she expects something in return. So if she doesn't get what she wanted from the transaction, she is a victim of deception, but not of rape. Maybe we should create a new legal category, specifically for sex that is achieved by deception. But expanding the definition of rape only serves to obfuscate the meaning of the word. But the court ruled differently, and this led straight to the fiasco that occurred a few years ago. An Arab man and a Jewish woman hooked up through a dating site. She was looking for a serious relationship. He was looking for sex, and he didn't tell her he was an Arab. They met and had dinner, and then he took her to a nearby construction site, where, according to her, he proceeded to brutally rape her. According to him, the sex was consensual, so it went to trial. The lawyers on both sides probably felt that their case wasn't strong enough, so they came to a plea bargain. Can you guess? Exactly. He admitted that he lied to her about his Arab origin, and was prosecuted for rape by deception. The judge was left with the task of justifying why this is rape, and in the verdict you can see him wriggling and trying to rationalize it, but not very convincingly. The bottom line is that the man got convicted of rape by deception because he lied about his ethnicity. The ramifications are terrible. First of all, think about the victim. I've read the woman's testimony, and I have to say that I believed her more than him. So we have a woman who was probably raped, and instead of giving her justice, the court pretty much painted her as a racist, someone who wouldn't sleep with a man just because he's an Arab. Well done. Secondly, it turned a probable rapist into a hero. The Israeli media, being the media, immediately jumped on the case and turned it into a story about racism in the judicial system. They didn't bother to figure out the whole story, so their reporting omitted the fact that the original charge was penetration without consent. They made it seem like this poor man is being sent to prison just for lying to a woman about his ethnicity. It was only later that some reporter in a small newspaper went and got the woman's side of the story, and I read it only because a feminist friend pointed it to me. Most people didn't get the entire story. The rapist got 6 months, and was eulogized by leftist commentators. Bully for him. But worst of all is what it did to Israeli law. As we recall, rape by deception is defined as lying about features in your identity that would be critical to a reasonable woman. So now we have a legal precedent that it is reasonable for a woman to be racist, and reject someone based on ethnicity. Which means that anything is possible rape now. What if I lie to a woman about my age? What if I dye my hair? What if I have children and I don't mention it? What is reasonable now? Laws aren't set in stone, and there is still a debate around this law. I believe that eventually it will be changed, but it will probably take a few more cases like this, in which justice isn't exactly served. Anyway, this is what happens when you start to mess around with the definition of rape. I know that there is a push to expand the definition of rape by deception in other countries as well. Take this as a cautionary tale.